you guys just let me know when you want me to get started.
Okay, well, we're recording and you can start anytime you like. And I'm off camera and turning my phone to mute.
Okay, lovely. Well, hello everybody, and thank you very much for having me along. And thanks, Sheila, for organising everything. I reached out to Sheila last year just to let her know about the fellowship that I got and some of the areas that I delved into that I didn't expect that I would kind of really focus on. So I'm no carnivore expert. I just wanted to preface with that. My background is working in zoos for over 20 years, and I have carnivore experience for Shrizzle, but not nowhere near what you all would have. And I mainly am aligned with, I'm a tag convener for the primate tag, and definitely kind of have done a lot more in that space. So I really thank you all for having me along. And I want to share as much as I can from my learnings, and also about Churchill Fellowships in general for those of us based in Australia, because if any of this is interesting to any of you, I'd love to talk to you about project opportunities that you may have in mind that you could go for a Churchill Fellowship. So I just wanted to give the background of kind of how mine came to be. I had some colleagues at Perth Zoo that got them like 15, 20 years ago. And I've always wanted to do a fellowship. And the main thing is it has to benefit the Australian community. And a lot of the ideas I kept coming up with were having the opportunity to go overseas and work in conservation and kind of continue to work on that, which I'm already kind of doing, but enough of it, I couldn't link back enough to Australia. So I'd started to look into climate change and disaster preparedness, and at our ASZK conference that Perth Zoo hosted, we ran a workshop in this space on emergency response and disaster preparedness, and it really showed the gaps in our knowledge and preparedness in general. So that's where my project pitch came to be. So for those of you that don't know what a Churchill Fellowship is, in a nutshell, you can get up to $35,000 to travel overseas for up to 8 weeks. It covers all of your insurance, your flights, and it gives you a set amount of money per country or city that you're going to. So, for example, it will look at New York, and if you're spending 1 week in New York, this is about how much money you will need for all of your incidentals, your accommodation, and then that's how it kind of works out your budget. But they just give you a lump sum of money. So I was not sure how that would work, and so just getting this lump sum of money was quite delightful. So then you can plan for what you need. I definitely still spent my own when it came to, I attended the EAZA and the American Tsar conferences. So I paid for that, and I did do an extra 4 weeks. But please do get in touch if you like more information on a fellowship. The applications are coming open in the 27th of February. There's certainly a lot in our sector that we could be looking at. It is a long application process, and a lot is involved, but it's more just really honing in on your pitch. So that's my main advice is if you're passionate and they really get that from you and they know you're going to follow through with your project, then I think that is a really good impact that you can have. So my itinerary, I traveled to Madagascar, and then to Spain, Germany, Poland, Switzerland, California, Colorado, and a lot of American states, and also Canada, Auckland, and Thailand. So I was away for 12 weeks. And yeah, I self-funded for 4 of those. And I traveled around a lot of zoos, a lot of wildlife parks, and caught up with a lot of different aid networks, and attended conferences and engaged with a lot of conservation organisations. So Madagascar, I travelled with Matt Hunt, that some of you may know from Free the Bears, and Romain Pizzi. He's a wildlife veterinarian. So it was great to have them along for my adventure in Madagascar. For you all, we didn't see the cute little fossa. We were certainly looking for them, but it wasn't really the time for it. The main area that I was really interested in Madagascar was the impact from climate change and the illegal wildlife trade. And Perth Zoo has sent and partnered with Madagascar Fauna and Flora Group for many years. So it was great to go and see directly their work. But I guess the main interest for me as part of this project was climate change campaigns. And this is something that I've already engaged with ZAR on, and to look into how we can use species like a lemur, but also looking back at our Australian species, a koala, also the focus on coral bleaching, and other areas, and really kind of raise awareness in that space through using these flagship species. I worked with a few other conservation organisations over there, including the Centre for Val Bio, and I definitely recommend people going to Madagascar. Terrible roads, worst roads in the world, but it's an amazing country to be able to get a real reflection of the habitat threats, also the poverty, the illegal trade in wildlife. So we were there for working and hearing from the team when it came to a confiscation of over 10,000 radiated tortoises. And we also got to connect with Patricia Wright, who heads up Centre Val Bio, and they've got a great research facility out there. It's like a little mini university. So yes, highly, highly recommend. Then my main focus of my my work was looking into very specific case studies when it came to preparedness. Some of them you may have heard of, some you may not. There was certainly, as I was traveling around, people would say, oh, how have you not gone to this zoo that had XYZ happen? And it's just mind blowing. And I think that we know how isolated we can be in our neck of the woods, but also not all of these events make the media, and it's not until you kind of really start researching into them. So I always knew that I really wanted to go to Calgary Zoo to hear about their flood, and you may have heard about how their lovely hippo floated out of their area into the public access area. Unfortunately, because the power was off, the electric doors didn't open and he could just snuggle up against those electric doors. Unfortunately, didn't try to push them over. So it was really amazing working with that team. But I guess that the main kind of feedback is preparedness, but that so many people may have had preparedness in place, but even still those lessons learned. And it was just really confronting hearing firsthand. But also seeing the contingencies that places like Calgary already had in place to be able to at least have some off-site facilities that they could move animals to. But they were crating tigers and quickly moving a few tigers to their vet department, and then quickly using those crates to go and get some lions. And they had, I think, 8 hours, and their facility, their site was completely flooded. So I've collected a lot of information on all of these different case studies, and I definitely am respecting everyone's confidentiality. But I did find that most places were so keen to help, keen to share, keen to connect with people that may be in a similar situation with their properties when it came to certain risks. And I have been talking with ZAR executive on this, and we're really keen to maybe run an evacuation workshop at the next ZAR conference. And so I'd really love, like, if any of you have any interesting cases or areas where you've done some great work, or really keen to get more development in, please do reach out, because the more that we can learn from one another, the better. I also went, not all of it was from natural disasters. One zoo in Germany, somebody had purposefully opened literally a floodgate for a dam, and so their zoo was completely flooded. And it was some of the sites that I worked through, they got assistance from their zoological industry bodies, and others didn't. Then Krefeld Zoo in Germany, they had a whole ape house burned down and lost over 50 animals, including all of the apes except for 2 chimpanzees that I had the great pleasure of meeting, and I was also there to work through their new facility build. So some really devastating events, but super interesting to connect with lots of mutual aid networks, one of which being ZDR3, so a Zoo Disaster Recovery Response Network in the States. And I am definitely working more with them and partners in Australia to see how we could create mutual aid networks. Obviously, there's a lot more zoos in many of the countries that I visited, but there is still that capacity, even when it comes to inventory of capture equipment that may be between sites, animal holding between sites. Definitely for us here at Perth Zoo, if anything was to happen to our Grade 8 building for the orangutans, we have nowhere to put them. So we're starting to think of those areas completely outside of our facility here and who we could connect with to at least have a holding plan for them. So yeah, I really am going to delve more into that area, and I'm really interested to connect with you all. Did a lot within fires, preparedness for wildfires. I've got a lot of these abbreviations. It's the Zoo Hazard Partnership. I4, the International Fund for Animal Welfare. BARTA was a really interesting group. They're the British Animal Rescue and Trauma Care Association. And so they are from everything from racehorses to cattle. So think big carriers of these animals, and if a road accident happens. And this is very much led by the emergency services. Asia for Animals, they have a great preparedness and disaster resilience. GRAZE, so growing resilience in our zoo sector, which I'll go into more, and also Wildlife Health Australia. So I4, bit of a silly selfie. I've started connecting with them to learn more about black walks, and especially for us here in Western Australia and around Australia and New Zealand, is being able to upskill ourselves when it comes to finding wildlife on black walks. And it's a sector that continuing to delve into and really connect people with, because there's a lot of opportunities for people. And I know definitely a lot of our vet nurses here at Perth Zoo are super interested to get involved. They really want vet nurses, vets, and people in leadership to help lead these black walks. So I don't know if you can see in this photo, there's a cute little toy there, but sadly a lot of what we know we're going into with these is the euthanasia of a lot of animals, because a lot can't be saved, and that's why they really want leaders in this space to be able to coordinate these black walks, because it is a very sad event that people are going into. I went to the Wild Animal Rescue Network conference and far out. So for a lot of you all, this was hosted in Thailand. And so really delved into the illegal trade in wildlife, and especially, gosh, tigers was just front and center, and learning a lot in this space. And it's something that I'll reach out to Sheila and Beck on. Dr. Anna, she has done a lot in her PhD when looking into the wildlife trade, specifically with carnivores. And something that we were just really interested about, and I didn't really know this, and when talking about the illegal trade, I've just tended to always go, oh, and they drug them. And she said, no, Holly, these tigers more often than not are not drugged. She goes, it's just purely that they are kept awake for so long, and they're fed, and certainly not necessarily fed well, but it's not necessarily drugged. She goes, it's too expensive and they can't get access. So that was just one thing that I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense, but didn't even really think of that. We went to work with some conservation partners, so Wildlife Friends in Thailand, and yeah, super interesting conference, but exceptionally confronting when it comes through the trade. And I was really loved connecting with some more colleagues from India that I haven't connected with before. So an area of the project that I did not expect to delve into anywhere near as much as what I have was safety and two-keeper safety, but specifically around two-key, two-lock. And now I really, this is not an area of expertise for me. Certainly now my mind is blown, and I can't stop going on about it and talking to people about it. And I caught up with my team yesterday, and with Jen Beattie, who is your Sumatran Tiger SMP coordinator, just to kind of go into more what we can do here at Perth. We're definitely very behind the 8 ball when it comes to work in this space. And it's something that since coming back for me personally, is non-negotiable. I really want to see better systems in place for us here. I've joined with the safety SAG, so I know it's an area that they're really interested in working to, and I would love it if anyone here is willing to contribute to a little survey that I've set up, and then we could discuss more. I know that so many of you, I'm preaching to the people that are already doing this, would have some great systems, some great learning. So I'd love for us to really kind of steer those conversations. I've spoken to Nicola Craddock, and it's definitely an area that ZAR's interested in. Never from a mandate perspective like what I experienced with AZA in the States, but certainly supporting holders and kind of coming up with a bit of a philosophy and a framework. And we completely appreciate that many properties would not be able to have the resources or the staffing to be able to do two-keeper systems, let alone the engineering controls and the cost, but it comes down to really, really good policy. So it is an area we're looking into. Justine actually just sent me the accreditation safety information that we're just kind of looking through at the moment. I don't know how I've become this safety person, but in some ways I think that we are the kinds of people that have been working in our sector for a while, so there's a lot that we can provide. So I love that our voices are being heard, and I'd love to work with all of you more on this, because like I say, this is the area of expertise that many of you have been working on for years and put into practice at your facilities. So the first time that this became very evident to me, I went to a zoo, and their CEO had only been there for 4 days, and then they had a keeper deaf 4 days into his role, and it started off our whole conversation and just everything that they've put in place. This is at Zurich Zoo, so they it's very well known, and Severin, the CEO there, talks about it quite openly, and has been a great mentor for me in this space, and along with many other things, because it's and their safety officer Thomas. It's really, really interesting, and some of the protocols that they've put in place are simple. They're just those reviews that just really make sense. And from rubberized bullets at some of the facilities that I went to. I know here at Perth Zoo, our legislation's changing with firearms, so even just using a firearm on site is going to get more and more difficult. But using different methods to be able to sadly stun animals away if we are found in this situation. But of course, it comes back to the safety overlays that we can have to avoid this. But I went through many different case studies with people on near misses and animal deaths, and also facilities that had started rolling out 2-key 2-lock or other systems, and they hadn't for all animals, and then getting into a big pickle. So one zoo had done it for all of their big cats and bears, but they hadn't for their apes, and they had a group of apes get out, and then it was horrible for the team. They were within a confined area, but they couldn't get access to them. They had a very unwell ape, and then they all had to be darted, and then a very young ape they thought they'd nearly lost because it fell. So talking directly with people that had such an amazing reflection, and then really quick and effective ways to fix their facilities, and on a budget, but also still in line with a really, really good core policy. And Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, which I'm sure many of you have all heard of, and we hear all the fabulous things about them. I worked very closely with them and Jeff Holter, who has done a lot of their safety, and Erin McNally, that many of you will know, and her partner, both work at Cheyenne as well, and they experienced a friend and colleague be killed, and that's where they've done a lot of work in the 2-key 2-lock and in the space of well-being and through graze, so growing resilience in our sector. And when I've been bouncing ideas off Erin, I'll go back to her and say, oh, this facility has this in place, what are your thoughts? And she just always comes back to two key to lock with those engineering controls. So it's been a really fascinating area, and I'm just really keen to connect with you all on it. So another area that came up just to do with safety and in general was the 5S principles. So making sure that we have clean, tidy areas. And I was going around a lot of zoos that had their accreditation occurring, and I was like, wow, far out, your facilities are exceptionally neat. And they said, well, it's accreditation, but they also see it's so important to have really, really clean, safe areas, which obviously then flows into our safe working practices. And just with this vet hospital here, I delved into a lot of sussing out beautiful vet hospitals, and far out Denver's vet hospital would hands down the best thing I've ever seen. They even have massage chairs. So if you've had an animal loss or having a bad day, you know, you can go and have your meeting and have a massage chair. This is the survey that I referenced, and I think we can put it in the chat. So if you are okay to answer some questions around safety systems at your site when it comes to dangerous animals, and certainly non-dangerous as well, the more information the better. Please do get involved, because I think you all are just doing some fantastic work. And I know that from a ZAR perspective would love to hear, and I think we can really lead these conversations and be a part of them. So the other area was climate-focused campaigns. So I did a lot while I was in Madagascar, but I also connected with Polar Bears International and their Arctic Ambassador program, and visited a few zoos and people in different roles in these zoos when it came to marketing and interp, and as well as the keepers and managers. And it was really, really interesting and a great way to assess how they utilise campaigns across the whole of IVIT's EAZA, AZA and their American ZAR, to really have that maximum benefit, which we've certainly done within our region, and palm oil is a good example. But I really see an area that we could get more involved in when it comes to the climate-focused campaigns. I sat in on at the EAZA conference on their Vietnamese campaign, and it's certainly really compelling, and a lot of money going back to Vietnam programs. But I got a lot from the Polar Bear International teams, and just going to the zoos, they're all singing from the same hymn book, and was really motivating. And James Biggs and I have started talking and brainstorming a little bit in this space. So it's an area that I think we can all really get involved in if there is that interest. Just one thing on this and some of the teams, because I was also connecting with media teams that I just wanted to share, was some of the really effective, transparent communications coming out of some zoos, which I know we've all got great comms, great social media, but I just wanted to share one from Calgary Zoo that had a polar bear pass away. So they'd connected with Polar Bears International, Arctic Ambassadors, spent millions on a new polar bear habitat, quite newly opened, and then polar bears, the two males were playing, and one bit the other male's throat in the pool, on display, and he's passed away. And just the way that they handled that and the transparent communications around that to their community and international community was just amazing for such a sad, horrific, unexpected event. I just took a lot away and have been connecting with our communications teams here at Perth around these transparent communications and really taking their community on the journey with them. But yeah, that was a horrible situation, but they handled it so exceptionally well. I've been connecting with colleagues in Madagascar on these and their thoughts, because obviously it will raise the profile for the species management programs that we've got here in Australia. So well-being and safety, a lot of just cute photos here, is obviously all interlinked. And it was really great talking with Erin about more with the Grays Network and the resilience in this space. and I connected with different ways that we can approach that, and also when it comes to trauma, secondary trauma, and just the realities of our industry. I was really excited to see at a few zoos life coaches, so they're there to support their colleagues, but also from a wellbeing perspective and what they need for their career development, but also helping them when it comes to navigating personal issues. So another area that Grays really works on is stop the bleed training, a lot of tabletop exercises. So most zoos that I worked through, we did a lot of drills, and learning more about the different ways that they structure their drill process. You know, I think a lot of us, they're sprung on you, but really looking at working through effective drills that people are really prepared for. They also go through hazardous material training, tactical firearms, media training, and coping strategies. So it's, again, I keep using the word confronting, but one of the main threats to American zoos at the moment is active shooters. They're a soft target. And this is something through the ZDR3 network, so the Zoo Disaster Response Network, that they have been monitoring and working on. They're USDA funded, and they haven't lost their USDA funding, which is great. But from a mutual aid perspective, they are working with any zoo can be a partner. They don't have to pay because, again, they're funded. And they are really there to help coach these zoos through their preparedness when it comes to inventory, when it comes to drill scenarios, but also just getting in there and cleaning up. And so an example that I've been saying to people is that I went to some zoos in Texas, and they say Fort Worth Zoo will have a ready, prepared vehicle with everything that's needed for an array of situations, be it fire, flood, hurricane, and then they will get deployed. And people on that deployment team could be from their life sciences, keepers, vets, their facilities team, maybe even media. And they will deploy even all the way to Florida if there is a hurricane, and they really get in and get out. So they've got all of the resources to be able to help those zoos and have that really quick turnaround. And a lot of the time it is tidying up, it's removing trees, it's caring for people, it's helping with their communication strategies. But it was really interesting, and I'm just so excited to get more into what that could look like for us. A lot of work around incident command structures, and having really good inventories across zoos so that we know what everybody has and how everyone can support one another. So lasting connections, sorry for all the selfies. So everywhere that I went, just really wanted to just give me their playbook. So for the ZDR3 team, they just were like, just do this in Australia. Here's everything you need to know, our MOUs, our code of conduct, our presentations, everything. Please, we're just here to support and don't want to reinvent the wheel, even if it did come to catastrophic events, and they were to deploy teams to Australia. And the Zoo Hazard Partnership, they were set up for HPAI, and obviously all the zoos that I was traveling to have already had HPAI, and are now learning to live with it. So a lot of learnings in that space as well. But yeah, it was great networking, and that's another thing I love, nurturing our networks. And so please do get in touch if there's anyone that you'd like to talk to. I connected with a lot of places, and I'm continuing to connect with a lot of places externally. So talking to many zoos that are affected by hurricanes, are more affected by floods and wildfires, and then kind of sharing. And I had a great conversation with Hillsville the other day, because so much that we can learn from, sadly, how at risk their property can be, and the same as Adelaide and Monarto, when it comes to fire strategies. There's so much that we can learn and take away from one another. So what they do expect at the end of a Churchill fellowship is a report. So it's around 50 pages and 20,000 words, and you get $2,000 once it's published. So they're giving you an incentive to get your report done. And then I will be attending some conferences. Of course, a lot of this is my own time. Perth Zoo lovely support, but certainly not funding. This is my own extracurricular activities. So I will be self-funding for ZAR and for ASZK. And continuing to connect with lots of different stakeholders and looking into mutual aid, and the recommendations being incorporated into those findings. And that's where, from a safety SAG perspective, and also if we can really delve into this when it comes to accreditation and using the ZAR conference to see what kind of workshops that we can work through. So because of my slideshow, I can't see any of the messages. So please do feel free to unmic yourself, unmute, and interrupt me if you've got any questions. And if there's anything else that anybody wants to contribute to. I've got now some more slides just on other areas that I looked into as part of the fellowship, more so because of my interest, and some areas that I'd really love Perth Zoo to focus on. So with our master planning, I just knew there were a few areas that hopefully we could get involved in. So I will go into those slides. I'm just aware that I can't see you all, so please do feel free to interrupt me. So sorry, more selfies, having a cuddle with a flamingo, but how adorable. So I was really interested to delve into different conservation campaigns at zoos, especially for their native wildlife, really effective habitats. And as many of us will know, with Cheyenne, when it comes to the amazing Rick Hester that they have out there and training programs. And something that I really loved, and I again, a lot of this we can find online, but it's nothing better than talking with people directly, were environmental enhancements. And that's something that I'm really trying to bring back here to Perth and to really work on getting more investment in the behaviour space for us. I know many of you already have but maybe behaviouralists or and are training teams and positions funded. And this is an area we'd really love to go into. So I suppose an example from Cheyenne is with their beaver. So a sweet little beaver that was often not on display. And I guess we can find this with many of our species, especially those nocturnal species that we may not be providing all of the environmental parameters to allow them to flourish. So what I took away from Cheyenne and many other zoos was, obviously for us, we're always curious, but testing the why and making sure that we're really investing in that. And that's where I guess a lot of us have been using Zoo Monitor and other recording template systems to be able to help us. So this beaver, they did some research into wild studies and found a specific sound that could be played, and obviously mimicking their wild habitat when it came to water. And so they tested a few different methods and with playing these sounds, and it encouraged the beaver to build a dam, and then that could then flow on to the beaver coming out and collecting materials around people and taking it back to their dam. And I just thought that was so beautiful and charming, but it really got me thinking about what we can do with our programs to make these animals flourish, but without those kinds of standardized training programs. So it's something that, I'm really fascinated in learning more and us all connecting more in this space. One of the best habitats, and I'm certainly not an invertebrate person, but was a walk through invertebrate habitat. I just found it fantastic. Another one at Point Defiance Zoo, I went to the facility and there was a tiger, and then there was a tapir, but they were saying something about siamang. So I was very confused with that, and I couldn't see the hanging materials for an arboreal primate. And then I realized that all of these habitats are interconnected and they will move. They'll move a tapir through, they'll move the tiger. And it was a really interesting way of utilizing those flexible habitat arrangements. So yeah, I enjoyed that one. So I then really went into, I guess, trying to build a case for us when it comes to a behaviouralist on our books, and we're having lots of good conversations around that. And I know all of us kind of talk about capybara. We're definitely lobbying for them at Perth Zoo. but I'll just skip through that. So we are, and sorry, Carney Tag, looking at our lovely giraffes and ungulates. But another area, we are looking into a new savanna as well as our rainforest that will be for our orangutans, tigers, and Komodo dragon and a few other species. But I really was interested seeing so many zoos that allow public feeding, and talking about like near misses when it does come to animals and public, and seeing how few they are and the level of respect for the animals. But certainly I was very interested with the enrichment here. So I'll just play this video. So some great voice systems. They're building a new giraffe facility here. But they've done research into a lot of enrichment when it comes to how the giraffe use their tongue, how they use their lips. Some other zoos that I went to, I would stand there and they'd say, Holly, this species has 36 foraging or food opportunities, and it wasn't obvious. It's just that they had used what they have in that environment to be able to hide food and encourage those animals to really effectively forage, but still in quite a small space. So environmental enhancements was really interesting. And then I did really deep dive into different giraffe houses, different giraffe huggers or crushers, enrichment, and with Perth Zoo's benchmarking in mind. And also when it came to training, many of you may have gone to the recent training conference and met Amy, but really interesting to learn more about hoof care and management, but understanding the why. So why are we seeing these issues with our animals? And let's test that before jumping in and scraping down a hoof. And definitely we saw that when we had our elephants here at Perth Zoo, and the amount of work was going into the elephant's hoof care, and a lot of the time it's just too much, but it's all coming from a good place, but making sure that we're actually understanding what substrate that animal needs, what their locomotion and issues may be to actually be bringing the concern in the first place. More when it came to giraffes, I've never dealt so much into giraffe enrichment. And here was some of the vet hospitals. Really cool seeing Calgary's vet hospital as well as Denver's and a few others around Europe. And definitely Perth Zoo vets here are very, very jealous. And what I was talking to about before when it came to the campaigns and transparent communications, I definitely took a lot away from some zoos that were really happy in sharing about their veil policies, their naming policies, but also mandatory campaign training. So back to the Polar Bear Network, they have mandatory training for their staff so that everybody is really aware of what they are working on within that campaign, so everyone across the zoo can talk to people about it, and anyone that's stopped if they're blowing a pathway or working in the zoo shop are aware of what that campaign is all about, which was really great to see. And this is just my last slide before if we want to get into a conversation. We definitely here are always really interested when it comes to fundraising and thanking our partners. And I just took a lot of insights from different zoos into what they're doing, you know, those quarters or dollars for conservation, and different ways of thanking people. So yeah, that was cool, and a good one for us here at Perth Zoo, because we have a new development team that is specifically looking into this. But I'm more than happy to go more into specific case studies or mutual aid networks or anything to do with the specific fellowship, or if anyone would like to talk about their safety or share anything, I'll just end this now and stop sharing my screen. But yeah, thank you very, very much. And thanks for having me along.
thank you, Holly. That was a really good presentation. I'm obviously, you can't see me because I'm having some technical difficulties, but if anyone's got any questions for Holly, this is a great opportunity to talk to her.
No pressure.
No pressure. I can't see anybody really, so you're just going to have to jump on in. I was going to say, Holly, that I was really impressed that you mentioned sometimes some of these solutions are quite simple and they don't need to create huge expense for people to improve safety. I also really like the fact that the transparency that you talked about from different organisations and how they deal with, you know, incidences. I think we could all delve a bit more into that, and our marketing people and media people absolutely have to give, I think, our visitors a little bit more credit in understanding some of these instances and not necessarily sugarcoating them, for want of a better word.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I don't know about some of you, but I think of us all as our peer group. And sometimes when I see certain information go out there, it's like, oh, what are my peers going to think about that? Because, yeah, we want to be transparent. We want to treat our community as well, that they are on a journey and learning with us, and that it doesn't need to be sugar coated. So yeah, it was very refreshing to see, for sure.
I guess for me too, Holly, it's that, you know, we are the zoo professionals, and who better to be situated to educate and teach our guests about the ups and downs of being in a zoo community.
Yep, exactly. And I think I found it really interesting connecting with lots of different people across the sites when it came to their disasters, their preparedness, their close calls, and hearing everyone's perspective. And some places that I went to, and this is, I'm really glad we're getting a safety role has been filled here at Perth, which is going to be really exciting. And it was really refreshing just sitting in on the safety SAG yesterday, is because there is so much amazing work going on, and we can really connect in that space and just learn from one another, because so many people are doing really, really great work. And if we can't learn from one another's specific cases, and that's why I was really impressed. Everyone was just really, really open. So I went to San Diego and went through their earthquakes and the Great Shakeout and what they're doing in that space, and such a huge site to have to try and evacuate. And I went to some smaller areas. Frank Buck Zoo was one that constantly are having floods, but then they're working with their emergency services to really help them in that space, even from things with having areas illuminated so that they could come on site, and the emergency services have maps of their site so they know exactly where they're going to with the power out. And so then they have illuminated areas that it doesn't matter if the power's out, through and the use of generators. And that's something we've definitely been talking more about for a lot of our properties and smaller properties, and wildlife carers, making sure that they have that. But the transparency when it came around safe working with Category 1 animals, I was really, really impressed. And some of the people I connected with, them themselves had made that error. And so hearing it so authentically from their perspective, and then them having a role in changing their practices and helping with the policy review was really nice, and really refreshing to know that they want to use their specific learnings for all of us to take away, and I didn't really encounter anywhere. And it's kind of what we find, and I think we can often connect with people online and have great conversations, but there's nothing better than when you meet in person. And I did find that some of the zoos that I went to, I'd have like a half hour or an hour meeting, and we'd end up going for hours, and they would cancel their other meetings because they were getting so excited sharing their findings and their feedback and learning like that. It's just was really, really lovely. And definitely Jeff Holter at Cheyenne was that person. He he ended up, I think, for 5 hours with me. He took me to one of his meetings with the life coach that Becky that they have there for his appointment, so that I could meet her and hear from how she coordinates that role, and a few similar roles that are going to be popping up. And I know that our HR team have been like, oh, that's really refreshing and a really great way. And so they're going to connect with her just to see the success that she's had in that space. So yeah, it was amazing. And even with the two Keep Us Safe working systems, I don't know a better way of really saying it, because I don't want to say two key, two lock all the time, from what definitely Erin has been drilling into me. But going through drills, even with that in mind. So we went through a lion drill, which was completely over the top, but still, could occur. But even with systems that can still fail, even if you do have all the engineering controls. So, and it was really great just seeing how they think outside the box. Their instant command systems, the even just from really effective maps to everybody just understanding certain policies across the site. So even when it comes to all of their staff that work in facilities, knowing how to safely operate in these areas when it comes to keeper safety. And I think that that's something that I definitely would love to hear from more people about, contractor inductions and safety. And that came up in the safety SAG yesterday. So I think that they're going to share that around. But yeah, that I could just keep on talking and talking, but please, if anyone's got any questions, or if you did want to finish the session early, yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Holly? Holly, I might get you to email me those links, just in case there's a problem with this recording. I'm hoping there isn't. And cool. We're happy to then put them onto the Carnivore Tag list server and also onto our Facebook page, so everybody has access to those surveys to help you out. And please, cool. I encourage everyone to get in contact with Holly at your leisure, because I'm sure there's a lot we could discuss in this space.
Thank you. And thanks for having me along. I know this wasn't necessarily just full on carnivore related, but I really appreciate your time, and I'd love to continue connecting with you all while, because yeah, disclaimer, at Perth, we're looking into our safe work practices. So I'd love to get in touch with many of you that are already doing so much amazing work in this space. So yeah, thanks. And if you want to look into a Churchill Fellowship, or anyone that would want to, please get in touch, because yeah, can't advocate for them enough. Thank you.
Thanks again, Holly.
Pleasure.
Okay, we'll finish the recording now.
See you later, everyone.